So maybe more personal development is actually not benefiting you in any way, but actually hurting your life and yourself. So I've been kind of thinking about this in the past few weeks or so. The main reason is I started to get really tired of reading self-help books. I remember being hooked on it and obsessed with it, and I read pretty much every single book I could get my hands on that was in the self-help section of the bookstore. But then the past, I'd say 3 years or 4 years, I just gotten so sick of it. I couldn't read anything anymore. The moment I started reading like the 10 steps or any of this kind of stuff, I immediately started to like throw up almost, and I had to shut it down and not read any of it. And I started, which is good as well, I started reading some other books that I didn't normally would have read before, because I was really like, oh, I only need to read self-help, everything else is really a waste of time, I should not bother even reading this. But after I got really sick of reading self-help, I actually started reading fiction and also some other books like classic non-fiction, like Why Nations Fall, or where someone explains their understanding of something in the world. And lately, I've been trying to understand why that is. And especially what also happened is because I read so many different books on these topics of self-help and stuff like this. And I had moments in my life where I felt like my life didn't actually change that much, and only like partially. And sometimes, for example, you read all these different books on happiness, but your basic level of happiness didn't actually increase. Then the question that stays on the end is for me like, okay, why did you actually read these books in the first place? And what's the benefit of reading these books? And that's kind of the notion I've been thinking through, and which I'm going to share and think through in this video. So what I came to understand is, if you really boil it down to like first principles, like what's a self-help let's stay in the self-help section of the bookstore. What's a self-help book after like first principles? And the main, or if I personally break it down to the bare minimum, what I end up with is that you have someone that just writes down his ideas of something. So maybe he has been really good at productivity, and he now sits down to write a productivity book. So what is in those 200, 300 pages? It's pretty much just ideas on something he experienced and he wants to share with the world. The intentions and the reasons for him sharing this are different things, which I'm not going to go into because it's not always clear. And the second thing is, if I boil it down, so you have a lot of someone writes down his ideas, and you also get to see how someone thinks is the best way to approach a different problem or solve a different problem. So again, if you buy a book on investing, then someone is putting on these 200, 300 pages his way of solving your problem of either being broke or not being wealthy or being broke in retirement, whatever it is. But he's telling you how to solve this problem of being broke or not investing your money or losing money in the stock market, all these different things. And you pretty much get kind of, not always a recipe, but you get this recipe of solving a certain problem that you can just follow if it's a good book. And I believe a big problem with like the mindless consumption of self-help stuff, which is so easy to do nowadays. Even if you just open your Substack, you have like 5 different articles with like the 5 things to do, the 7 things to improve, the 3 habits to build. Then you open up your YouTube, and especially once you're in this algorithm on these platforms, it's like very hard to get out. And you get all these content that is so, it sounds so easy and so nice, and it's packaged really good. So it sounds simple, effortless, and you just do this and your life explodes and change. And you see this then on YouTube, then you go on your Instagram and you probably have some other gurus telling you some stuff to do. And then even at night you go home and you read even more self-help books. And that was kind of the trap that I was in as well. And there's nothing necessarily bad about this. And I benefited a lot from it. But the only thing is, which I came back to, is like, okay, why did my life sometimes not change as much or not as lasting as I thought it would be by just reading all these different books? Because I've gotten all the information. So again, if we stay with the first principle breakdown of what self-help book is, a collection of ideas and someone sharing his way of, or how to solve a certain problem, okay? Or a recipe for solving this problem. The main problem is, by doing this mindless consumption I just explained, is you just gather more ideas in your brain. You get ideas after ideas after ideas after ideas. And that's what I experienced as well. Like, I remember I was in my agency and I was really stressed at the time. And I had like 7 clients that I was servicing just by myself. And I was doing this all alone. And I was doing the meta ads. I was building the funnels, writing the copies, all these different things. And I wanted to be more productive, which at the time I thought is the solution to this problem, which is not. It would have been to build system and hire people. And it took me a while to understand this. But I read like 5 or 7 different productivity books, from like Deep Work to Atomic Habits, like all the classics. And afterwards, after like these 5 weeks, I've just gathered so many different ideas in my brain that I ended up barely implementing any of them. And especially none of them actually stuck long term with me. I mean, I still have like the deep work habits and my habits in general. I learned a lot from it, but nothing where I look back and I'm like, damn, this 1 or 2 or 3 ideas I really took to the extreme and I took to the max, and I really executed on them until I've gotten to the point where I started to get diminishing returns. And that is kind of what I believe, like something to work with. If you gather so many different ideas, it's not really actually helping, because number one, it's confusing. And how many more ideas do you need until you actually start taking action? Which is the main thing. If you have 5 different ideas and you look at all these different ideas and you believe like, okay, idea number 2 is the best one that will actually help me, then there is no benefit and value in getting 5 more ideas. So you have 10 ideas or 15 ideas, because you still have to do idea 2, which you determine is the best idea for you to solve your problem. So in that case, I think the solution forward, which I will do, is to, 1, find the best books on the stuff I want to learn and where I want to get more ideas in. So if I want to get more ideas on how to improve my loving relationship or something, then I want to make sure I find the best qualified person on this topic, and then to just read their book, maybe another one on some other qualified person, and to find the best ideas from there, and then kind of make my own mind up what will work for me, or what kind of idea I can take from this that will actually improve or help me to achieve my goal. And then to just ruthlessly implement this one idea and to read this one book over and over again, to understand this idea even deeper, to understand the concept even deeper, and to execute even more on that single idea. I think that is now more my battle plan, to be more intentional about the ideas that I put in my mind, and then to focus more on executing the ideas instead of just gathering more ideas, because it's not helping. Like, again, if you want to be more happy and you have 30 different ideas, but you're not actually implementing them, and you just bought another book from Amazon on how to be happy, then it's not at all helping anyone. And the second thing is with the problem. So if someone sits down and he writes a self-help book on how to approach or solve a certain problem, okay, whatever that is, then in order for him to solve this problem for me, we both, or I have to assume that I have this problem in the first place. And I believe this is like kind of the trap. if you just randomly consume all this kind of self-help without intention of you knowing what kind of ideas you're looking for and what kind of information you're seeking, then you're just reading books on solving a certain problem, even if you didn't have the problem in the first place, which then, by just reading those books, made you believe that, well, maybe I do have this problem, which maybe you didn't in the beginning. And then you start to constantly be on the cycle where you have to fix yourself because you're randomly consuming all this content and these books on self-help. You start to believe that you have all these different problems and your life needs fixing in all these different areas. And then you start to feel broken and you're constantly restless on this rush of fixing yourself. And this is the second thing I want to change, and I'm already doing different. And I think it's like the solution to this is to only consume stuff where I actually know for certain that this is my problem, and the person I'm reading this content from or watching this content or reading the book from actually knows how to solve this problem that I have. So there is, again, no benefit if I buy a book on gardening and how to be the best gardener in the world if I don't even have a garden. But that's kind of what I did and what a lot of people do by just scrolling through Instagram and consuming all this content, by watching YouTube videos on how to do X, Y, Z, and then to buy 3 more books on Amazon on how to do something or how to be more productive or whatnot. And to first sit down and be like, okay, this is actually my bottleneck right now. This is getting in the way of me growing. This is getting in the way of me being more happy, or like what am I trying to achieve? What's stopping me from there? Like really understanding what's the bottleneck and what's the problem I'm trying to solve. And then to really intentionally buy something or get the information or find a coach or a mentor that specifically helps me to solve this one bottleneck or allows me to achieve my goal or is getting me there. So for example, if I want to make 6 figures per month with my agency or whatnot, or then obviously if I knew how to do this, then I would have already done this. So if that is the goal, then it makes sense to get someone that has already done this and already taught other people how to do this, so he can just tell me what to do. That's kind of the way. But it wouldn't be beneficial for me to just buy this coaching from him on how to do this if this is either not even my goal and I'm not even trying to go for this, or if I don't have any problems going there. Okay? Kind of. Well, it makes sense to get more ideas from outside if you're in that space. But again, yeah, those are kind of my thoughts.